Going big with the SDSU West project. The plans to expand before the university buys the Mission Valley site.
Most of the schools I went to growing up were probation schools. So it's either you come to school where there's probation officers, and there was also staff that worked for the county, like probation staff. So basically I felt like if I didn't go, I'm gonna get locked up.
Getting a second chance behind bars. The philosophy behind the program that teaches inmates at Donovan.
I think it's important because it tells us that, it's okay for you to be a minority and excel in life, that you can do it.
The equation for success in STEM careers and how it all starts with the right message. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebone Monet. San Diego State University officials say their proposed stadium in Mission Valley could be expanded to serve as a home for an NFL team. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has an update on the SDSU West campaign.
School officials already have plans to build a 35,000-seat sports stadium for the Aztec football team if they get a chance to buy the Mission Valley site. Now, the facility could also serve a professional soccer team or host international matches. Athletic Director John David Wicker says the stadium could also be expanded to 55,000 seats with luxury areas that could serve an NFL team. The expanded stadium would be wrapped in an aluminum skin that could use LED lights to change colors. And Wicker says a roof would cover about half of the structure.
The canopy will be constructed using ETFE panels with the ability to change the level of sunlight that passes through the system. Less sunlight on a warm sunny day, more sunlight on a cooler sunny day.
Now, Wicker says it could cost $750 to $850 million to make the upgrades, and he says any financing or ownership issues would have to be negotiated with an NFL partner. Soccer City's plan for the site includes a multi-use stadium, which they're willing to share with the university, and sets aside several acres for an NFL stadium if a team wants to move there within 5 years. Now, the SDSU stadium development comes the same week that Soccer City backers launched a TV campaign in support of their Mission Valley development measure. The ad takes aim at the people who put together the plan to sell the site to SDSU.
Hi, I'm Soccer City.
I call myself SDSU West.
Well, you're from the university.
Oh, no, not really.
Who are you?
I'm a developer. I'm just borrowing the name.
Why are you calling yourself SDSU?
Soccer City is suing over use of the SDSU name, hoping to have the SDSU West measure removed from the ballot. Now, this is the first major ad buy on television this year by either SDSU West or Soccer City. Supporters of both initiatives have paid for advertising on the web for more than a year. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
KPBS is a service of SDSU. A new poll in the race for California shows Republicans gaining support and one well-known Democrat fading. Democratic Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom still holds a strong lead with 30%. The UC Berkeley poll shows Republican businessman John Cox and Republican Assemblyman Travis Allen competing for the second spot at 18% and 16%. Former LA Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa is at 9%. The same poll had him at 17% in December. Comedian and actor Bill Cosby faces up to 30 years in prison after being found guilty of 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault. The case was a retrial of a 2004 incident. The victim says she was drugged and molested by Mr. Cosby at his home near Philadelphia. Many other women have come forward with allegations against Mr. Cosby. Some of them were allowed to testify during the retrial.
This jury has shown that what the Me Too movement has saying is that women are worthy of being believed. This is a victory not just for Andrea Constant, whom I consider to be the Joan of Arc in the war on rape. It is not just a victory for the Commonwealth. It is not just a victory for the 62 of us publicly known Cosby survivors whom Gloria Allred has helped give a voice. It is also a victory for womanhood, and it is a victory for all sexual assault survivors, female and male.
How many women does it take for one woman to be believed over the denial of one rich, powerful, famous man? And the answer in this case is 4.
The district attorney argued for Cosby to be jailed immediately, but he will remain free until sentencing. The National Rifle Association is joining a legal challenge to new regulations on ammo sales in California. Starting next year, anyone buying ammunition would have to pass a background check. It's part of a series of gun reform bills that voters approved under Prop 63. The lawsuit is led by Kim Rody, who has won several gold medals as an Olympic target shooter. The arrest of the accused Golden State Killer has led to a push to clear a backlog of untested rape kits. There are more than 13,000 rape cases across the state in which evidence hasn't been cross-checked with national databases. State Treasurer John Chung was at the Capitol today calling for an additional $13 million to get the job done.
The suspect was arrested thanks to discarded DNA evidence from his Sacramento area home that was matched with genetic evidence from the crimes. The case of the Golden State Killer epitomizes the importance of DNA testing.
Earlier this week, the San Diego County District Attorney's Office announced $1 million will be spent to process 1,000 rape kits in local cases. Prisoners have long taken correspondence courses to earn college credit behind bars. But inmates at Donovan State Prison in Otay Mesa are participating in a rare face-to-face program. Southwestern College began offering it in a 2016 Obama-era pilot program that extended Pell Grants to prisoners. KPBS education reporter Megan Burks takes us behind bars, where 20 inmates are earning their associate degrees.
Hey, Quinteros, what's up, man?
The students filing into John Reeder's English 99 class carry their books and pens in large plastic bags instead of backpacks. They wear blue prison uniforms and faded black tattoos, but those are just about the only clues this classroom is in a prison. College pennants line the walls, a whiteboard lays out the day's agenda, and the students quickly take their seats, except for one who's eager to discuss the text.
And here's the thing, he keeps making mistakes over and over again. And you have all these decades of experience. He's trying to capture when he was a dumb 20-year-old.
Reeder says that's common for this group.
The level of critical thought and the commentary is just much higher than I would typically get in a room, teaching the same class to a room of like 18 to 21-year-olds. These guys draw from a pretty remarkable pool of experiences, and they're able to leverage that a lot in our classroom.
The class is on reading and writing analytically and more or less marks the halfway point on the student's journey to an associate's degree. Things move a little slower behind bars, so they're expected to graduate in 2020, but their degrees will be no different than those earned outside of prison. Reeder says his class is just as rigorous, drawing on psychology, philosophy, and poetry to explore themes of education and power.
The idea is that most folks, I would assume, come into the classroom, if they're going to yoke ideas of education and power together, they would think, oh, well, higher ed leads to empowerment. And that's a great narrative. I love that narrative. But I also want them to think about the ways structures of education dovetail with structures of power in U.S. society. And so we're not just thinking about it in terms of personal transformation and empowerment, although that is an important part of why they're here. I also want them to think about some of the social inequities that get reproduced within systems of education in the U.S.
And that strikes a chord with 34-year-old Kyle Bachman. He essentially grew up in Orange County's criminal justice system.
Most of the schools I went to growing up were probation schools. So it's either you come to school where there's probation officers, and there was also staff that worked for the county, like probation staff. So basically, I felt like if I didn't go, I'm going to get locked up.
Bachman earned his high school diploma in juvenile hall. Later, a carjacking and robbery, along with sentencing enhancements for being in a gang, landed him in state prison with 15 years to life. He takes responsibility for his actions, but he's also beginning to work out some of the larger forces that may have brought him here, thanks to Reeder's class.
I just happened to, bring about discussion like, hey, what do you guys think about, do you see some kind of connection? Like how, the 1%, of the rich family, and the upper elite with the kids of judges and lawyers and, the people that make all this money, how they're taught so differently, than as opposed to the way we're taught. And something I wonder is like, is that same percentage, that 1%, is that same percentage also only in here? Because it's a very small number of people who come from, like I said, that type of environment.
In his own way, Bachman describes philosopher Paulo Freire's seminal theory from Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Freire says oppressed people are educated in a banking system where teachers deposit knowledge without bringing students' strengths and experiences to bear. A better education system, he says, is one where students think critically and work to solve problems.
I'm just able to come up with this basic concept, and I have no way to even look this up on the internet or anything. I got some studies from the 70s, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm getting a little suspicious here, because the people you're talking about going to the banking system are the type of people that are usually in the surroundings in here,
Bachman says he hopes the class helps him prove to the parole board he can re-enter society. He'd like to become a drug and alcohol counselor. Jason Hicks helps coordinate education programs at Donovan and says the prison benefits too.
The program actually takes place on a general population yard where there's racial politics. And when you go out on the yard on Facility A, you'll see segregation of races, and that sort of disappears when you get into the classroom. You'll notice that the guys are willing to help each other out from different races and support each other. I think it's really showing rehabilitation, at its best.
And it's expected the benefits of the program might extend beyond the barbed wire. Corrections officials and policymakers are investing in these types of programs to try to bring down the rate of former inmates who struggle on the outside and return to prison. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
Tomorrow, we'll introduce you to a former student in the program who has been released and is putting that theory to the test. The union representing 25,000 in the UC system is giving an official warning for a strike. The strike would involve service workers and medical technicians. Union members voted to authorize a strike last week. Today, notice was given to the UC system that a 3-day work stoppage would begin May 7th. The local union president says the action is over a stall in contract negotiations. President Donald Trump's choice for Secretary of State is officially on the job. The U.S. Senate voted 57-42 to confirm Mike Pompeo. The former CIA director was sworn in by Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. Pompeo is also a former congressman from Kansas. He's already on his first official overseas trip with a meeting planned in Europe and the Middle East. This afternoon, the White House released these photos of Pompeo meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Pompeo made the trip earlier this month. The release of the photos comes just hours before Kim Jong-un will meet with the South Korean president. The high-level meetings are all a part of a potential negotiations for North Korea to end its nuclear weapons program. In recent weeks, he's been accused of extravagant spending, silencing those who speak up in the EPA, and inappropriate connections to lobbyists. Today, Administrator Scott Pruitt defended himself before a House committee and had some heated exchanges with Democrats.
Facts are facts and fiction is fiction. And a lie doesn't become truth just because it appears on the front page of the newspaper. Much of what has been targeted towards me and my team has been half-truths, or at best, stories that have been so twisted that they do not resemble reality. And I'm here, and I welcome the chance to be here, to set the record straight in these areas. But let's have no illusions about what was really going on here. Those who have attacked the EPA and attacked me are doing so because they want to attack and derail the president's agenda and undermine this administration's priorities. I'm simply not going to let that happen.
Do you have any remorse about this?
Let me say to you, Congressman.
Well, you can answer it yes or no. Do you have any remorse?
I echo your comments. I think that what you said is absolutely true about the importance of public trust.
Sir, I have 2 minutes.
I endeavor to
achieve.
I endeavor
yes or no?
to live in a way that respects
Do you have any remorse?
I think there are changes I've made already. The change from first class to coach travel, that's the change I've made. I learned about the pay raises.
You're not going to out-talk me. You're not going to out-talk me.
Pruitt has come under intense scrutiny. There are now multiple federal investigations into his behavior, leading the Environmental Protection Agency. Homeland Security officials laid out the plan to use the California National Guard in San Diego and around the state. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh sat down with the head of the Border Patrol in San Diego and has this report.
The first few members of the California National Guard are already in San Diego. The planning team is working with the U.S. Border Patrol. San Diego Sector Chief Rodney Scott says more than 160 troops will be arriving in San Diego in the next few weeks.
Currently, we're not asking the National Guard to have any contact with any suspects whatsoever. Their entire role will be behind the scenes in a support function.
The Border Patrol has not been able to hire all of its available slots. He says the high cost of living in San Diego has made it particularly difficult to hire agents in this region. Nearly all of the guardsmen in the first wave will act essentially as dispatchers, freeing up agents to work in the field. Governor Brown will allow up to 400 troops. The Border Patrol has several requests into the Department of Defense. This first round will be divided almost exclusively between the two regions, though, along the border. They will not be garrisoned along the border, though, as they were in 2006 and 2010. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Sunny, warm weather will continue through the weekend, but there's a chance of rain next week. Justin Pavic has details in tonight's forecast.
Well, temperatures behaving like they should for this time of the year the next couple of days, but still have the stubborn low clouds to contend with. Could see some changes next week. We'll dive into that extended forecast coming up. In the short term, though, again, the clouds burning off, looking at quiet conditions throughout the remainder of the evening toward, again, Ramona and also toward Oceanside, La Jolla, and San Diego. But again, as we talk about the late night hours, we'll see again the onshore flow again present itself with some low clouds and some patchy fog once again. Notice, though, as we look at the regional satellite and radar, not a whole lot going on for now. See the spin off the coastline. Eventually, we'll see a storm system dive in here as we talk about early next week, but that's still a ways away. For tonight, thickening clouds, again, low temperatures dropping off into the mid and the upper 50s, and all similar numbers here toward Chula Vista down to 53, Oceanside 53, Borrego Springs a bit milder at 64, Mount Laguna a little cooler down to 45. Morning clouds and then breaking later on in the day toward the immediate shoreline. Eventually, we'll see the cloudiness work its way all the way in toward the coastal range here as we work our way in toward the upcoming weekend as the onshore flow becomes a little stronger. But again, for tomorrow, Oceanside 66, San Diego the same. As we work our way toward the weekend, more energy, and that's going to increase the flow, and that means the low clouds and fog, like I said, a little further inland. We'll also see the winds begin to kick up a little more toward the mountainous terrain and also the deserts. And then come early next week, we'll see that low pressure system deposit a few showers toward the coast. By Tuesday, that could knock the numbers down below normal. Again, typically around 68 this time of the year in San Diego. Inland also looking at some showers as we venture down the road to Tuesday. Otherwise, it's more low clouds and fog breaking the next couple of days. And then as we venture our way into Sunday and Monday, that high temperature down just a bit towards 70. Mountainous locations becoming on the windy side this weekend as the onshore flow increases and then cooling off as we venture into early week. Much of the same here into the deserts. Notice the 70s returning by the time we venture into Tuesday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic. Back to you, Ebony.
San Diego has become a hub for tech startups. These industries offer more job security and higher pay. But the Economic Development Corporation predicts a local shortage in high-skilled workers. SDSU's Pre-College Institute is working with students in low-income neighborhoods to help them become better prepared.
It's first period at O'Farrell Charter High School, and Stephanie Hernandez blends right in. She's a San Diego State University student, here to tutor math. Her added objective is to inspire.
I feel like the benefits are just humongous. I feel like the majority of the time many students don't have someone that's there for them or just they don't envision going to college.
Hernandez says she struggled with math, but that changed when a middle school teacher encouraged her.
It's important to be positive role models to many of the younger generations, because I feel like a lot of the time many students don't have role models in their everyday lives. So they don't really have someone that's going to tell them, hey, you can go to college, or hey, you can be at SCSU, hey, you can be at UCLA.
The near-peer relationship, as they call it, is reciprocal. The high school students also have a chance to experience college life. Earlier this month, SDSU's Pre-College Institute hosted students from O'Farrell and about a dozen other San Diego schools for STEM 2 Exploration Day.
Today we've been exploring the different majors and career paths we can take in any STEM-related activities.
Kenya Solis attended with her Castle Park High School classmates, Ashley Vega and Yadir Corona.
What intrigues me the most is the human anatomy and physiology part of biology.
I love learning about new ideas or concepts that are being researched right now, such as the structure of the body, how we fight diseases, etc.
Oh, now I get it.
In one workshop, colorful Skittles were used to explain the basics of accounting.
And as it goes back and forth, you can follow it.
In another, students learned the science behind wave production.
Light has bounced several times. It's reflection.
Programs like these that work to close the achievement gap are especially important here in the San Diego region, where researchers find our fastest growing population is statistically least prepared for high-skill jobs. A recent San Diego Regional Economic Development Corporation report highlighted what it calls an inclusion problem in San Diego, where 85% of Latinos don't have bachelor's degrees. Latinos are projected to make up San Diego's majority in the next 12 years, as demand for a high-skilled workforce also climbs. Tech startups led the city's $55 billion innovation economy. To keep up, researchers recommend strengthening science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. In industries where new ideas are key, Solis says the need for diversity is a no-brainer.
I think it's more important to have like a diversity of people entering, because if you have the same type of individuals entering the same group, you don't have a lot of change over time. So if you have like men, women across different races, ages, and backgrounds, you have more of an opportunity to grow.
Vega says inclusion is powerful.
I think it's important because it tells us that, it's okay for you to be a minority and excel in life, that you can do it.
And sometimes that's exactly what it takes. Hernandez attributes having someone tell her you can do it to starting her on the path to college. She plans to turn her passion for finding ways to get through to kids resistant to math into a career.
I realized, hey, I want to do this for the rest of my life. If you do the single subject, it means that you want to.
A state senator says hackers stole his identity, then stole thousands of dollars from his re-election campaign. Richard Pan, whose district is in the Sacramento area, says the hacker broke into his email account. From there, the hacker reviewed past emails on how payments are approved and submitted an invoice to his campaign treasurer for $46,000. The check was sent to a person in Texas. The FBI is investigating. Local health officials say the deadliest flu season on record in San Diego County is over. Now experts are analyzing what they learned and how it can be applied to public health moving forward. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has the story.
20,000 confirmed flu cases is the most San Diego has ever seen. But those cases are all lab confirmed, meaning if you had the flu and did not get tested, it was not counted by the county.
We know that the number of lab-confirmed cases, even though it's a large number and the largest we've had, and since we've been really tracking it in the last 30 or 40 years, we know that's not the actual number of cases. There's many times more than that, probably easily 10 times as many.
County health officials attribute a record number of cases and deaths this year due in part to a deadlier influenza A strain. They say it's unclear what next flu season will look like, but have some takeaways from this year.
One of the lessons learned that we had this year was that when we let people know in San Diego that there are increased number of cases, more people get vaccinated. We've had almost 150,000 more doses into our registry this year for flu vaccine than the year before.
A record 341 flu-related deaths have been confirmed this year. In San Diego, flu season typically ends by March, but this season has been especially long. Health officials say even though the season is over, some flu activity will continue year-round. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
I'm John Yang. Tonight on the NewsHour, Bill Cosby guilty on all counts in his sexual assault trial. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Now here's a look at what we are working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, getting the superhero band back together. Iron Man, Thor, and Black Panther return to the silver screen in a new Avengers movie. And on Midday Edition, with the new Secretary of State taking charge, we speak to a longtime U.S. ambassador on his U.S. diplomacy in the Middle East. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.